Good afternoon. Just wanted to point out, if you ride that fence and you keep doing it, you'll end up with a stain. Look at the stain. What I mean is, when you can curate the composition of your lawn. If you're mowing very low all the time, and you're in a perk percentage where you have, reasonably sized house and just a minor lawn around it. Now, you've got X amount of surface area that perks water and X amount that sheds water. So with that, you're going to carry more moisture. The problem with mowing low in those circumstances is you end up fostering and curating the species that tends to have sticky proteins that stain like that. And then you couple that with the fact that with these smaller areas, to have effective pass route structure, you have to go above a hardscape sometimes like that with the blade spinning, and then that leaves that stain. So it's kind of the worst of all circumstances. And in areas and places where you could foster a different type of plant that has more of a capillary action, it's more like a closed cell structure, the Bahia specifically here, then you wouldn't even have the staining problem as much, because, well, one, you're mowing up higher, so there's less downforce on the, there's less turbulence that would leave that stain. And, largely that type of plant you get when you mow too low is going to always do that. It's just always going to. And so you got no blow zones, no way to avoid the hardscapes in large part, and then also the negative effect of the staining type of lawn grasses. It's not a good deal. And what I mean by straddling the fence is, you know what to do, right? You know how to prevent it, because the other cell structure plant is where it shuttles water between moisture, the soil and atmosphere. So you don't have that imbalance where you're supporting clover, et cetera, but the customer petitions for a lower cut. That's what I mean by straddling the fence. So you're going as low as you will with your procedural safeguards and with your environmental perspectives and stuff, but then mowing a little lower than you probably would have if you were just mowing your own lawn, and then you end up with the negative circumstance. All right, you have a good day. To flesh that paradigm out, the clovers and those other plants that don't have that capillary action to do transpiration, they are more of a band-aid plant. Their presence is in response to the improper treatment, and as such, if you had open cell and closed cell foam next to each other in a bucket of water, if you put the closed cell foam into the bucket, it would float. It would absorb absolutely zero water. If you had open cell, then it would suck up the water, and when you pull it up, it would be dripping. Okay, so that holding of the moisture within the plant itself is what causes a lot of that staining, and it makes it very difficult to judge times of cut for that lawn, because it's going to clump, it's going to stick together, it's going to stain. But also, that type of plant is not good for the environment, because the plant itself is the one that's calling for rain or calling for less rain. And it's a tricky cycle and loop, but basically it comes down to a plant that has the capillary action for transpiration will, when rain happens, relax its guard cells at the stomatocyte receptors for reception of moisture, and it also relaxes its guard cells in conjunction with its root structure to open it up to receive moisture within the soil. But to trigger moisture, it will transpire what moisture reserves it has upward when needed to give off evaporative processes that will foster the rainfall. They balance moisture, and then in a lawn like that, you have a good balance that gives you a plant that won't behave in that way. It'll give off loose clippings that don't clump, And, environmentally, it's just a lot better because now you don't have excess humidity. Your root structure is not locked up tight, so when it rains, you don't have excess runoff. It's kind of like going to the gym and exercising a muscle. So the plants you get from low cutting are more like a person that's lazy and it doesn't go to the gym, and they don't have as much reflexive action. They're not as adaptive in growth rate and stuff to compensate for solar intensity fluctuations and all these other factors that make it a non-contributing, non-beneficial plant. But they're there as a band-aid, because absent that, then you have full soil exposure, and then you just have the migration of the desiccating effect of the sun and the migration in full conversion to xeric plant ecology. So the weather is following the plants, and the ability of the plants to call for the weather that's good, it depends on the soil. So it's a complete cycle, and we have to be very careful not to disturb it.